Hello everyone, and welcome back to Having People Over, my 4-week series where we are doing video content all from inspired by my new book, Having People Over, which is out October 21st. It is entirely about the arts of hosting, gathering, creating a home you love, and perhaps most importantly, building community, an increasingly lost art in our atomized society. Look how beautiful she is. We have illustrations, we have photography, so many colors, textures, flavors. So many exciting things happening. My cousin illustrated this book, including the cover, diva alert. So last week, I'll link you down below. Last week, we talked all about sort of the increasingly lost art of being a community member, which again, I wanna be very clear, although it is a very real generational problem with my fellow millennials and increasingly Gen Z, it is certainly not something that anyone needs to feel ashamed or targeted over. So we obviously covered a more serious topic last week. So this week I wanted to do something a bit more fun and lighthearted, also very inspired by my book and accessible to all price points, which are these 25 things under $25 that actually upgrade your life. Now, a lot in this book is sort of about being an adult when no one is looking. Now, one of the things that for me was a truly life-changing threshold to cross, like often when we talk about milestones in adult life, we talk about things like degrees or jobs or having a certain amount of money or buying a home. I actually think that in my life, the moments that have made me feel most like an adult are things that are a little bit more intangible, but that are clearly the result of a lot of different improvements in the way I live my life. So for me, a big example was I can really have people over whenever. I have had many dinner parties on essentially an hour or two's notice. I generally feel like my home is not always perfect, but it's certainly usually in a state where I feel comfortable with other people visiting, dropping by unexpectedly. I have people stay over and it's no problem. Like my husband and I were out of town for a few months and someone while we were gone unexpectedly needed a place to stay. And we were just like, go grab the keys from our neighbor and stay in the house. The sheets were clean, there were towels ready. You know, there was everything that they would really need for a couple weeks stay. And that to me felt more like, okay, wow, like I'm really an adult in a way that even other things like buying a home didn't necessarily always make me feel. And I think a lot of it is having these little micro improvements to how you live your life, how you carry yourself, the way that you're prepared for situations. I sometimes think of it as like you're the mom friend, right? Like you're the friend who, when someone in the group asks for some hand sanitizer or a piece of gum or a Band-Aid, like you always have that on you because it's kind of just about anticipating the unpredictable nature of life. So I say all of that to say the things that I picked for this list, some of them come directly from the book, but a lot of them are just kind of from my everyday life, both sort of changes in habits that are totally free, but also things that are products that you can literally go out and buy, but all of which kind of have the cumulative effect of making me feel like a more functional, prepared adult and being that way in sort of an ongoing basis so that I never have to worry about getting ready. But in the meantime, once you are done pre-ordering my book, Having People Over at the link in the description, I want to say a quick thank you to our partner who made this entire series possible, Monarch. So for those who don't know, although I've mentioned it many times, Monarch is my personal budgeting app. I've been using them for a while, well before we even started working with them. So it was a major slay when they wanted to work with us. But basically Monarch is just a very easy to use, very visually beautiful and streamlined budgeting app where you can do basically everything you need to get your finances under control. Now, spoiler alert, one of the items on this list is literally a good budgeting app because I do think it genuinely makes you feel so much more in control of your life. But Monarch is the one I use and they are also the ones who are sponsoring this series. And there are no ads and they don't sell your financial data to third parties. It's just a clean, secure app that makes managing your money feel much less overwhelming. And for those of you who might live with someone or be married, it is also incredibly easy using the app to split finances, split costs, and visualize multiple people's finances together. So it doesn't just help you get a handle over your own money, it helps you get a handle over the financial comings and goings of whoever happens to be in your house. But anyway, if you are interested in trying out Monarch, you can do a free trial. And if you use the link in our description, which I really hope you do, you get 50% off your annual plan with code TFD50. So now without further ado, 25 things under $25 that upgrade your entire life. So number one, and you know I hate to give it to Mark Zuckerberg, but a Facebook Marketplace account / buy nothing group. Now, when I tell you that my entire life changed for the better when I started primarily shopping secondhand for home goods, like I would be underselling it, truly. Like, there are so many things in my home that I love that I never would have been able to afford if I was buying it new, that I never would have found new. And if I were only ever buying new things, like, the quality of items in my home would be so much lower. They would be so much less cute. It would be so much more like everyone else has, which is quite frankly how I did it through most of my 20s, buying mostly like IKEA with the occasional item from Wayfair or West Elm or what have you. I do still, to be totally candid, struggle shopping that much secondhand for clothes, just because doing it online is, like, for me, quite a bit of a risk. Like, I've been burned by several pieces that, like, didn't really fit and I couldn't return. And I do shop in person for secondhand clothes whenever I can, but it's just a much more mixed bag when you're fitting a human body rather than getting like a side table, which, speaking of which, my side table that you see right here, Facebook Marketplace. Now, obviously, shopping secondhand doesn't necessarily mean Facebook Marketplace or Facebook Buy Nothing groups. However, in my experience in big cities, usually that's one of the best places to consistently find things. And there are certain categories of items that once you get into the groove of shopping secondhand / free, like, you'll basically never need to pay for again. Like, I don't have kids, but all my friends with kids say they, like, basically exclusively get their children's clothes through Facebook Buy Nothing groups and then put them back on once the kids grow out of them. But similarly, things like furniture, serving dishes, glassware, artwork, even a lot of electronics, like, there are so many things that you can buy secondhand for your home that will basically consistently be way better quality, way more original / beautiful / unique, and way, way, way less expensive, if not completely free, once you start shopping secondhand. And in my opinion, as much as I hate to admit it, as much as I would love to totally get rid of my account forever, Facebook really is that girl when it comes to secondhand shopping. Number 2, a water bottle you actually use. Now, everyone is going to be different about which water bottle. Our producer here behind the camera is opening up her water bottle. It is a different one than I have. I personally love the Stanley because I really love the straw and I like how cold it stays. Some people prefer something that's more lightweight and transportable. A handle is really beneficial for some people. Some people want one that, like, fits onto their bike. Some people like, you know, even like the friggin' Camelbacks when they go running. Like, whatever your preferred mode of staying hydrated is, no judgment, straw or no straw, handle or no handle, light or heavy, it's all good. But find something that really easily keeps you hydrated without having to think about it. That is truly a game changer, I promise you. Like, I was just in France for almost 3 months and, like, I love many things about it, but God, I'm never less hydrated than when I'm in Europe. Like, you have to go out of your way to stay hydrated in Europe. Like, you go to a restaurant, they literally give you like shot glasses of water and make you beg for them.
Please, sir, I want some more.
There's like, no one carries water bottles around. It's like, no one's ever hydrated. I'm sorry. And also, we can't have ice. I don't know. I don't need a car, but I'd like ice cubes, like, whatever. Number 3, back to things that are totally free, is a library card. I don't care if you never check out a single book. Chances are, whatever library network you are in, like, there are so many different events and resources and classes and all kinds of activities that will become available to you just via having a free library card. Like, in general, once you become an adult, if you're considering paying for something, take a second to check if the library is offering a version of this for free. That could be anything from like apps to software to obviously books, but to classes, to meetup groups, to arts and crafts. Like, check out your local library. Number 4 is regularly scheduling certain items to be delivered. A few examples of items that I regularly schedule to be delivered. And yes, depending on how many things that you are buying, it could end up more than $25, but often with delivery from your local stores, like, it won't actually be much more money than you're already spending. So if you're thinking about it in terms of the difference between what you currently spend and what you would be, it is almost certainly going to be less than $25. I get delivered at regular intervals based on how much we use them, things like paper towels, cleaning supplies, tampons, toilet paper, dish soap, laundry detergent, lint rollers, toothpaste, nail polish remover, light bulbs, batteries, and anything else that I know I will essentially always be using and always be needing at certain intervals. It's not always at the same intervals. There are certain things that I really only get delivered once or twice a year and certain things that I get delivered every few weeks. Dog food being a good example. But for me, a truly game-changing thing as far as how comfortable and adult and prepared I feel in my life has been always having more of what I need. I very rarely run out of things anymore unless unless they're things that I really only buy one-off. When it comes to, for example, like if I'm in the bathroom and we're about to run out of toilet paper, I know that there's more in the hall closet. You know, if I'm low on the tube of toothpaste, there's always an extra tube before I need to go to the store. And yes, obviously, if you are in a place where you are on such a tight budget that you can only afford to buy exactly as much as you need, this may not be possible for you yet. But if you are someone who could afford to just put in place that regular order, a true game changer. Number 5 is going to be a Google Suite. Now, you can use whatever tool you want, but for me, Google is just like so integrated into the rest of life. Like it just makes it so much easier for so many different tasks. For me, like I am a daily religious user of obviously Gmail, but also Google Calendar, Google Drive, Google Sheets. Like I use, the Google Suite for essentially everything. They aren't sponsoring this. I wish they were. Google, come at us. I mean, we're on Google, technically, we're on YouTube. But suffice to say, like, for me, just like a good suite of online tools that are like really integrated into the rest of your life and allow you to like customize as much as you need to, like an utter game changer. And on that similar note, a big one, especially if you are in any way thinking of potentially looking for a job, even in the next like year or two, a good professional website. Yes, LinkedIn is great, but just a little hub, doesn't have to be fancy, doesn't have to be expensive, just a little place where someone who's looking to find information about you professionally can easily find it. Just, your headshot, a little quick bio about you, your resume, maybe your portfolio if it applies, just a nice, cohesive, clean place for people to find out all about you. These can easily sync with Google if you're already using the Google Suite as per our last point. But also on that note, always make sure for any kind of professional email, it's not blah, blah, blah at gmail.com. It is something at your website or yourname.com. It is a very small change. It is not very expensive, but it does make a huge difference in terms of perceived professionalism. Good shoe inserts. I highly recommend, especially once you're past the age of like, I'd say 30, if you have insurance and can do it, like try to talk to a doctor about like, if you have any sort of pain associated with walking or being on your feet, like look into orthopedics that could potentially be helpful for you. Now, granted, some of these will go over $25, but even the kind that you can get at the drugstore often will be beneficial to add to your shoes, especially if, like me, you like wearing cuter shoes that don't always have the greatest support. For me personally now, I generally always have inserts in my shoes. Not every single pair, obviously I don't have them in like sandals or what have you, but in the shoes that I do have, and having seen a doctor about my like foot health has been genuinely a game changer. Number 8, and we don't need to get too into it, is a good budgeting app. Obviously, as I mentioned, I like Monarch, but you can honestly use whatever. I just care that you have a budgeting app. If you do not have a very central, easy to use place to check your money on a day-to-day basis, it is going to be very, very hard to get control over almost anything else. It is not enough to just look at your bank accounts, although I know that that is tempting to stop at. And especially for a lot of the more adult goals that aren't necessarily to the extent of buying a home, like, being able to travel and go visit people, being able to save up for a bigger purchase, etc. Like that's where things like sinking funds come in and having a bird's eye view over all of your different goals at once. So please use a budgeting app. Full disclosure, Monarch is $9 a month. Some of them technically are free, but I personally think that paying a little bit of money is usually worth it. Number 9 is a clothes steamer and a lint roller. Usually, in order to look like pretty decent when you're leaving the house, you need one or both of those things. You may not always need it, but generally speaking, you might want to either hit something with a steamer, get a wrinkle out, or you maybe have like me dog hair or just general detritus on your clothes even after it's been cleaned. Hit it with a quick steam, a quick lint roller, you will automatically look and feel way more put together in the exact same clothes. I recommend keeping your lint roller somewhere close to your door. I keep it in our coat closet. Keep the steamer somewhere really easy to access, and keep it filled if you use it regularly, which ideally you probably will. Make it easy on yourself to make your clothes look presentable. And on a similar note, number 10 is a by-the-door skin kit. That means for me 3 key things: hand lotion, sunscreen, sanitizer. You also might want things like lip balm or safety pins or other things that you frequently find yourself needing while you're out, but just a little kit of things that you are gonna regularly want to either put on yourself or put in your bag is extremely helpful. Now, number 11, in terms of making more meaningful upgrades that are both good for you, but also good for the environment, is getting reusable versions of otherwise disposable things. So a few examples for me that I use very regularly are cloth napkins instead of paper napkins. If I'm having a bigger party, I'll usually use paper napkins just because I don't have an unlimited amount of cloth napkins that match, and also it's a ton to wash them. But for basically any dinner under like 10 people, I'm always using cloth napkins. Things like glass or metal straws rather than plastic. Please, 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 for the love of God, unless you live somewhere where your tap water is like genuinely dangerous, please don't be one of those people who buys crates worth of plastic individual water bottles just to fill them into tumblers or large glasses. Like, I genuinely think that is just such borderline grotesque American behavior if it's not absolutely necessary. Similarly, people who eat on paper plates at home, like, what is going on? You can also get things like coasters in nice materials. You can get little beeswax covers for your dishes rather than saran wrap. Nice reusable Pyrex Tupperware that can also go in the oven or in the freezer. Basically, the slightly upgraded version of anything that would otherwise be single use is also usually better aesthetically, makes you feel a little more put together, feels a little more special. And like I said, better for the environment. Painter's tape and a tape measurer. Anytime you are going to want to make any change in your home, whether that be changing a piece of furniture or putting a piece of art on the wall or seeing if something would fit in your counter space, even all the way up to doing a whole renovation, you want to measure it out and tape it out first. That will give you the closest approximation of really figuring out whether or not something works in your space. When I was younger, I used to be much more irrational and impulsive about buying things for my home without really taking the time to measure and tape it out first. On more than one occasion, I was burned by something being too big or too small or not fitting on the counter or not fitting on the shelf or not looking right in that space. And I would have been saved simply by taking a tape measure, taping out its dimensions, and actually marking it with the painter's tape. And even for things like furniture, like obviously if it's just art on the wall, you can just tape out a little square where it would go. But for things like furniture, you can literally tape out the dimensions on the floor and on the wall so you can get sort of a 3D visualization of what something will look like in your home. Sticking around the home front is closet organizers. It took me forever to invest in like closet organizing tools that were adapted to the closet I had, and they were like, literally, I paid nothing for most of them because, as I previously mentioned, I use Facebook Buy Nothing groups and Facebook Marketplace for this kind of thing. But little drawers that can house like various clothing items, boxes for things like out of season storage, hooks for your purses, shoe racks, belt organizers. Genuinely, the difference between a poorly organized and well-organized closet is game-changing, especially in small spaces where you really need to maximize every inch of your home, like in New York City apartments. And for me, at least, when I open up my closet and everything is in its nice little organized home and I can easily find what I need, like, it is the best way to start the day. And it also feels like I have so much more stuff because I'm actually able to access all of it instead of constantly wondering where things are. Next up is thank you cards. You may not be in the place in your life where you already have things like personalized stationery, but you could at least have thank you cards. You can get some really simple ones at any stationery store or buy them online. And the art of sending a nice thank you card to someone after they show up for something or do something nice to you, like, it is genuinely game-changing in our current era of like people barely ever taking the time to thank each other, let alone doing it via writing. And getting really cute ones gives you like a really cute little signature for when you send to someone. Like, they're like, oh, that's a cute little thank you card from this person who sends them. It is delightful and makes you feel not only more like a grown-up, but also makes you feel closer to the people that you're sending it to. Number 15 is a good cleaning tool. Now, I don't mean by this like an actual tool to clean with, although that is also very helpful. I have like a little cleaning toolbox in my hall closet that I find comes in a ton of handy. Also worth noting that cleaning supplies are on the list of things that I regularly have delivered because I know I'll always need them. But I mean something more like a spreadsheet or a matrix or an app or something that allows you to sort of visualize and organize the process of cleaning. This can be dividing into rooms or categories or frequencies of how much you need to do something. But at least for me, when it comes to remembering things that need to be done around the house, it is a million times easier when you can actually visualize it and plan for it rather than just always feeling like you could be cleaning something. And speaking of your home, a small thing that makes a big difference in terms of the experience and feel and visual sophistication of a home is getting light bulbs that are all the same color. Now, what I mean by color is not like blue or green, but like some light bulbs are cooler, some are warmer, some mimic daylight. They all have different sort of color tones to them. And some of them you can even change. Like, we use Google Home, and some of our light bulbs are smart bulbs where you can actually like cycle through the different settings to have different tones and brightnesses with your light bulbs. But at least getting them, if you don't have smart bulbs, at least getting ones that all match and are all consistent will automatically make a space feel more elevated and pleasant to be in. Up next is at least 5 recipes you are consistently really good at. Now, ideally, these are not all like super complicated things or things that require special ingredients. In an ideal scenario, these are the kind of dishes where you can swap in one thing for another or use what you have in your fridge. But the point is there should at least be a small handful of dishes that you are very, very comfortable making on a moment's notice. You could even make them in a different kitchen if you're traveling. And they're things that you can always default to if you don't know what else to make. A lot of people who aren't very good at cooking or aren't used to cooking feel like it's this big, intimidating, almost like identity-based thing to go from a person who doesn't cook to a person who is good at cooking. But the reality is it's really not about mastering so many individual recipes and having like a library of recipe cards in your brain. It's really more about getting used to a few fundamental truths of cooking. To take it back to my book, Having People Over, a lot of the sort of recipes in the book are less like individual recipes, although there are some of that. It's more like food templates. Like this kind of thing always goes with this kind of thing. Like if you're using this flavor or texture, you might want to use this one. There are certain things that once you start to understand the fundamentals of, like, for example, how long you like to cook vegetables and under what conditions. Like, do you like them more crispy or do you like them more cooked? How to master perfect rice or perfect pasta to your taste? How do you like to prepare your eggs? And can you do them consistently to make things like quiches and frittatas? And things that make use of other ingredients, like starting to get very comfortable with just a few basic sort of truths of cooking and having at least 5 recipes that you can always default to. That is basically all that's required to start getting really comfortable with cooking in a more experimental way. Because again, it's not about memorizing a bunch of recipes, it's starting to understand the fundamentals behind what actually makes food taste good and go together well. Next up, for a small item that makes a world of difference, especially when it comes to planning anything in your home, is a grid style notebook. So anytime I am planning anything logistical in my home, whether that's moving around furniture or possibly doing a renovation, or when I'm moving in and out of a place, I always have a grid style notebook because it allows me to actually do things more or less to scale. It's not perfect, but you can really sort of get a better idea of visual space by mapping it onto a grid rather than just drawing it onto blank paper. The upgraded version of this that I also do is I print out a copy of my floor plan and then I draw directly on the floor plan so that I can get an easier visualization. But grid-based notebooks are also really helpful for a lot of other things. You can make little mini spreadsheets on paper. You can separate things more easily into categories. It's not entirely to replace just lined paper notebooks, but I do personally find that lined paper is much easier for when you're just straight up writing things like lists or essays or journaling, whereas grid-based notebooks I find are much easier for when you're doing anything that's sort of visual or planning in nature. Next is having guest-ready pantry supplies. So as I mentioned, for me, it was a huge game changer when I felt like I could have a guest over at a moment's notice. And there are a few pantry staples that I really think are extremely helpful, not just for if someone were to drop by and you can serve them something, but also for when you're looking to make a nice little snack or to, make up a decent dinner for yourself on a moment's notice. So some of my pantry staples, so always going to be things like canned food. So canned tuna, canned beans, things that can easily make a dip or a spread, things that can be easily put into other food when you're making dinner. Similarly, that goes for things like dried pasta. I always have a few jars of dried pasta on my counter for this reason. Something I always like to keep on hand for just a quick snack that feels more special than it really is popping corn so that I can make popcorn. Sometimes I'll do truffle, sometimes I will do Old Bay, sometimes cinnamon sugar, but it's a really versatile thing that lasts forever. It doesn't need to be refrigerated and can be turned into really whatever you want. Like homemade popcorn really requires very little effort as compared to just throwing a bag of microwave popcorn in the microwave, but it does feel so much more special and is honestly better for you. I also like to keep at least 1 bottle of sparkling wine and 1 bottle of non-alcoholic sparkling something, be that a nice flavored sparkling water or a cider or a fancy soda, so that there's just like something to pop open on a moment's notice if we want to, that can really be fit for any guest. Similarly, good coffee and tea always make for a nice little coffee or tea moment in the afternoon. I always have lemons because they can be used for lemonade, or they're great in many recipes, or they can be used for a garnish. They also smell really nice when you cut them open. They're good for cleaning. I also always have things like fresh herbs. They're great for everything from making a nice little simple syrup to garnishing something to cooking with. I always have at least one box of nice little cookies that I can put out when I'm serving tea or coffee. And similarly, I always have chips, nuts, and olives for if someone comes over for a drink in the evening, we always have something to put out. Things like cheese, charcuterie, and crackers will always come in handy. Essentially, your pantry staples for guests or even just for yourself may be different, but I find that having a few of those things always on hand makes it feel like your home is always just a little bit more ready. Now, moving away from the home and back onto our virtual world, having at least one group chat or at least one buddy system for a certain goal. So like a friend of mine and I are looking to get into weightlifting this fall, so we're doing it together because we're gonna hold each other accountable and make it into like a little social activity. You might have a goal around money, or maybe you're learning a language or starting a new hobby or doing basically anything, but having at least one group chat or sort of buddy message thread that is explicitly geared toward this shared goal. There is amazing data that shows that it makes us much more likely to achieve those goals when we have some level of accountability and some social aspect to them. So having that little place to hold yourself accountable and stay motivated, game changer, and it costs nothing. And still on your phone, another big one is reminders for things that are not work. So for me, I like to have reminders for my friends' birthdays, for important dates. If they're doing something, like I have a friend who has a big day coming up for work on Friday, so I have a little calendar reminder to send them a word of encouragement. This can be for basically anything in their lives that's important and worth remembering. Some people find it really helpful if they have a person, like let's say a family member that they want to regularly call. They'll set a scheduled time for themselves to reminder, hey, call mom, hey, call aunt so-and-so, hey, call grandma. This combines really nicely with things like your thank you cards. You can always set a reminder to yourself, send out a thank you card if you know someone's gonna send you a gift. Basically, just make sure that for your personal and social engagements, you are reminding yourself in the same way that you would for work. It's really important, I think, to remember that we live in a very work-oriented culture where our work identity is the most dominant part of our daily time and often of our personal identities. But the truth is, we're often so focused on work that we fail to see the tools and habits that we use in our professional lives that could easily apply to other aspects of life. Like why, for example, don't we take it as seriously to remember an important personal moment for our close friends that we do a work meeting? I would say both of those things are extremely important, so why not set a reminder for the personal one like you would for work? Number 22 is going to be an inventory of your A-list outfits. I'm going through a bit of a mid to late 30s wardrobe reinvention where I'm eliminating a lot of things and trying to really refocus and hone my style personally going into the fall. And part of that is really taking stock of what I've always called my A-list outfits. These are the outfits where you put them on, you think, I feel great, I look great, everything fits great, it's in good condition, like I feel great in this outfit and these items assembled this way. A really, really good thing to do is to, anytime you are in an outfit like that, take a photo of it, document it somewhere, write it down, put it in a little folder that you can reference whatever is the easiest way. I use Google Drive, you can use whatever you want, but have a little folder where you put these outfits so that you can always remember these are the ones, these are the pieces in this assembly that always make me feel my best. Start to build out like a little, essentially a little catalog of your own clothes that you feel best in, because often we have the clothes that we need to feel great. We just don't remember them, or we don't remember what order we put them in or what combination. So try being your own personal stylist and documenting your A-list outfits. Number 23 is super simple, but a basic manicure kit. You do not need to always have like amazing painted or professionally done nails, but keep them clean, keep them trimmed, keep your cuticles pushed back, keep your nail beds nice and healthy and your hands moisturized. Like put a little bit of a protective coat on it or a strengthener. Like it's a small thing, but having clean, well-maintained hands, which I don't really have right now. My hands look kind of crappy because I had a nail salon in France ruined my shit this summer, so whatever. Point being, like having just a little quick manicure kit, it's kind of on the same lines of having a steamer and a lint roller right by your door. It just makes it so that it's always a little bit easier to feel that much more put together. And on that note is an entryway tray or big bowl that you can just put all your stuff in when you come home. You can drop your mail, your keys, if you have a dog like me, your dog's leash. You can put basically anything you need on a regular basis. Things like we mentioned before, the hand sanitizer, sunscreen, gum, anything you're gonna wanna be able to pick up quickly, put back when you come home. A nice organized tray for your entryway makes all the difference. I used to not have one and I would constantly be finding myself out without things that I needed. And lastly, in the spirit of my book, Having People Over, out October 21st, is having at least one regular social activity that is not going to a bar. It could be a book club, it could be a recreational sport, you could be taking a class, you could be doing anything you want to. It just has to be regular, it has to be in person, and it has to not revolve around alcohol. It doesn't mean that alcohol can't sometimes be present, it just means that that cannot be the purpose of gathering and that cannot be the purpose of the destination. Ultimately, a lot of what we discussed in last week's video was this kind of slow death of third spaces and slow death of socialization that isn't just going to a bar and sitting there and drinking. So going out of your way to have at least one regular activity, one regular way to form connections with people that is not centered around alcohol is truly a step in the direction, in the most crucial direction, in my opinion, to feeling like a well-rounded, happy, fulfilled adult. Those are just 25 of my things, under $25, that upgrade your whole life. I'm sure you guys have plenty, and I really hope you leave them in the comments, because to me, this is always the stuff that I find most useful when I'm on social media, and I learn a lot from this kind of stuff, so I'm excited to see what you guys think. But that's all for now. I will see you guys next week, and until next time, make sure to check out Having People Over on shelves in stores October 21st. Pre-order below!